Well, we are joined now by Hans von Spakovsky, Senior Legal Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, and he has been following all these election developments closely, and he is here to help us understand what is going on. Hans, thanks for joining us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Well, we have different states with different deadlines for absentee ballots. We have a lot of states where all kind of entities made decisions about these deadlines in large part due to the pandemic. So if these absentee ballots change the margin of victory in a state, could either campaign argue to the Supreme Court that those ballots should not be counted?
Yes, and the Trump administration's already worked on that issue in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, what happened is the state Supreme Court stepped in and they extended the deadline for the receipt of absentee ballots, even though they really don't have the authority to do that. The campaign has already said that it intends to go to the Supreme Court to try to get the court to overrule the state Supreme Court. The court refused to do that when an emergency stay was requested prior to the election, but they didn't decide the merits of the case. And there's some indication that those ballots that were received after Election Day are being segregated, so there's still a possibility of pulling them out of the election count.
All right, and I understand this absentee ballot and the extension of deadlines by different entities that might not be
Right.
constitutional. It's an issue in other states as well, correct?
Yeah, in North Carolina, it's an issue because, look, the Constitution says it's the state legislatures that can set the rules. In North Carolina, it was the State Board of Elections that simply overrode the state statute, and they extended the deadline for the receipt of absentee ballots to more than a week after the election.
A lot going on here. Let's talk about recounts. The Trump campaign is requesting one in Wisconsin. Historically, in that state, recounts have changed the tally by only a few hundred votes, and Biden led by more than 20,000. Does a recount in Wisconsin make sense for the Trump campaign?
Well, if they have the opportunity to call it, they probably should. But the chances of it, as you said, overturning an election are pretty slim. If you look at the history of recounts across the country in many elections, you'll find that they only make a difference occasionally when the margin of victory or the difference between the two candidates is extremely small. I mean, we're talking about hundreds and not more than a couple of thousand ballots. When it's as much as 20,000 ballots, you almost never find that a recount has made a difference.
All right. And Hans, of course, our country is all about a peaceful transfer of power. Do these lawsuits, recounts, do they jeopardize an inauguration in January in any way?
No, because I think the courts will act very quickly. They're well aware that we need to have an outcome in each state determined by the time the Electoral College meets in early December for the electors to cast their votes for president. So I think they will act with expedition, probably within just days of lawsuits being filed.
All right. Hans von Spakovsky, thanks so much for your time.
Sure, thanks.